So today I am here to talk about my most anticipated 2021 releases. I have so many books that are coming out soon that are really intriguing to me, and I just thought I'd write them all down and talk to you guys, read you the synopsis, hopefully bring your attention to one that maybe you hadn't heard of before. Most of them are going to be brand new series or brand new authors to me. I'm just really looking forward to a lot of the books coming out here pretty soon. The majority of these books are coming out in the first half of the year because typically how publishing goes, they don't really announce or give too much information about books too far in advance. So most of the books that I have most of the books I have right now go up through July, and then we have like one or two later on ones, but most of them are for the first half of the year. Maybe I'll do a most anticipated for the second half of the year later on, but we'll just have to see how that goes and what book releases are coming out. I don't usually read too many new releases. I stick mostly with backlist titles. We'll see how many of these I end up getting to in the next year, but I'm really excited about a lot of them. So first up, coming out on January 5th, we have Persephone Station by Stina Leicht. This is a space opera for fans of The Mandalorian and Cowboy Bebop, which just sounds so cool and right up my alley. So Persephone Station, a seemingly backwater planet that has largely been ignored by the United Republic of Worlds, becomes the focus for the Soreo Orlev Corporation, as the planet has a few secrets the corporation tenaciously wants to exploit. Rosie, owner of Monk's Bar in the corporate town of West Brenner, caters to wannabe criminals and rich earth tourists of a sort at the front of the bar. However, two types of people drank at Monk's back bar: members of rather exclusive criminal class and those who sought to employ them. Angel, ex-Marine and head of a semi-organized band of beneficent criminals, wayward assassins, and washed-up mercenaries with a penchant for doing the honorable thing, is asked to perform a job for Rosie. What this job reveals will affect Persephone and put Angel and her squad up against an army. Despite the odds, they are rearing for a fight with the Soreo Orlev Corporation. For Angel, she knows that once honor is lost, there's no regaining it. That doesn't mean that she can't damned well try. That sounds so good. I love the cover of this one. It just looks like so grungy and cool. I love how the background is just very like simplistic. Dying over this cover. Also on January 5th, we have a YA contemporary. There's only like 2 or 3 contemporary books on this list, but this is one of them. This looks so cute. So this is by Elise Bryant. So this says that 16-year-old Tessa Johnson has never felt like the protagonist in her own life. She is rarely seen reflected on the pages of romance novels that she loves, and the only place that she's a true leading lady is in her own writing. In swoony love stories, she shares only with Caroline, her best friend and #1 devoted reader. When Tessa is accepted in the creative writing program of a prestigious art school, she's excited to finally let her story shine. But when she goes to her first workshop, the words are just gone. Fortunately, Caroline has a solution. Tessa just needs to find some inspiration in a real-life love story of her own. And she's ready with a list of romantic novel-inspired steps to a happily ever after. Nico, the brooding artist who looks like he's walked out of one of Tessa's stories, is cast as a perfect Prince Charming. As Tessa checks off each item on Caroline's list, she gets further and further away from herself. She risks losing everything she cares about, including the surprising bond that she develops with Sweet Sam, who lives across the street. She's well on her way to having her own real-life love story, but is it the one that she wants after all? This just sounds so cute. Every year there's a few YA contemporary that just really calls to me, and this has been one that's been on my TBR, I think since maybe June I added it, so it's been on my radar for quite a while. And then the last book coming out on January 5th is Light of the Jedi. This is part of a new Star Wars series that's coming up, and this is by Charles Soule, and it's part of the High Republic series, and this just sounds so good. We don't have much of a synopsis or anything like that, but I'm all about this one. I'm going to try to really prioritize my Star Wars books next year, and this one might be one I have to add after I finish up the ones I already have. So it says that 200 years before the events of Star Wars The Phantom Menace, in the era of the glorious High Republic, the noble and wise Jedi Knights must face a frightening threat to themselves, the galaxy and the Force itself. So that's all we have. But it sounds so good, and I'm all about that High Republic life. Moving on to January 19th, we've got The Forever Sea by Joshua Phillip Johnson. This just gives me like Howl's Moving Castle mixed with Treasure Planet vibes. I don't know why I'm getting that, but that's what I've got so far. Well, I know where the Howl's Moving Castle comes in, but I just kind of get that vibe about it, and it's so cool. I love the cover of this. It's so gorgeous. But this is the first book in a new environmental epic fantasy series set in a world where ships are kept afloat by magical hearth fires that sail in an endless grass sea. On the never-ending, miles-high expanse of prairie grasses known as the Forever Sea, Kindred Greyreach, Hearthfire Keeper, and sailor aboard harvesting vessel the Errant, is just beginning to fit in with the crew of her new ship when she receives devastating news. Her grandmother, the Marchess, legendary captain and Hearthfire Keeper, has stepped from her vessel and disappeared into the sea. But the note she leaves Kindred suggests that it was not an act of suicide. Something awaits in the depths. The Marchess has set out to find it. To follow in her grandmother's footsteps, Kindred must embroil herself in conflicts bigger than she could ever imagine. A water war simmering beneath the surface of two cultures, the politics of a mythic pirate city floating between the edges of the safe seas, battles against beasts of the deep, driven to the brink of madness in the elusive promise of a world below the waves. Kindred finds that she will sacrifice almost anything, ship, crew, and a life sailing in the sun, to discover the truth of the darkness that waits below the Forever Sea. Okay, if you're not sold on that, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what kind of books you like if you're not sold by that description. It just sounds so good. Then I just have one sequel. I'm not really going to go into this one, but this is a YA fantasy, A Vow So Bold and Deadly by Brigid Kemmerer. I am really excited for this. I've been really loving this series. I started reading it like several years ago. I got the arc for the first one almost a year in advance. And I loved the first one. I loved the second one. Really excited to continue on with this series. It comes out January 26th. But then also the same author has another book coming out September 7th, and I figured I'd just talk about that now. It's called Defy the Night, and this is her new series. And this is the summary. So it says, King Harriston rules Kandala with an iron fist. He's had to ever since he and his brother Prince Korik inherited the kingdom on a verge of collapse after a deadly illness killed most of the population before a cure is found. The one thing keeping his people alive is also driving them apart. The cure, made from nectar of a rare flower. As sickness lingers among the people of Kandala, a sharp divide has formed. As those who control access to the medicine live in luxury, while the rest live in suffering. The only way to keep peace is to kill anyone who threatens it, and that task falls to young Prince Korik. Tessa Cade is a masked outlaw marked for death, but she likes it that way. At night, she and her best friend Weston Lark ride through the streets of the poorest towns, distributing food, money, and medicine that they've stolen from the elite ruling class. Tessa has reason to hate the king. Her parents were publicly executed after they were caught selling medicine on the black market. She has reason to love Weston. He saved her life when she nearly followed her parents to the same fate. She's come to hate the dawn, which signals that it's time for Weston to return to his home on the other side of the city, where he spends his days working in the grueling iron forge. Lately, rumors have been spreading that the cure no longer works, and people are starting to act on their worst impulses. Tessa knows that the only way to save her people, the poor, is to assassinate King Harriston, and it's a mission that will most likely kill her than save anybody. But if her parents are willing to risk their lives, then so is she. I really like Brigid Kemmerer a lot. She's one of the YA authors that I'm still really excited about their releases. As far as February goes, I only have one book coming out in February that I'm really interested in, and that is The Black Coast by Mike Brooks. This is the first series in the God King Chronicles, and look at that cover. Doesn't that just look so intriguing? This is his fantasy debut, so I'm assuming he's written some other books, but just not fantasy before. This is the start of an unmissable series filled with war dragons, armored knights, seafaring raiders, dangerous magic, and crowd-pleasing battle scenes. When the citizens of the Black Keep see ships on the horizon, terror takes them, for they know what is coming. For generations, Black Keep has been raided by the fearsome clanspeople of Irenia? Saddling their war dragons, the Naradins rush to defend their home, only to discover that the clanspeople have not come to pillage at all. Driven from their own homeland by prophecies of the end of the world, they have come to search of a new home. Meanwhile, the wider continent of Nerida is lurching towards war. Black Keep is about to be caught in the crossfire of the coming war of the world, if only its new mismatched society can survive. So that sounds really cool. You had me at War Dragons with that one. I have no books coming out in March that I really have my eye on, and only one in April. So the April one is called The Last Watch by J.S. Dews, and as you can tell by the cover, this is a sci-fi. So this is being pitched as The Expanse meets Game of Thrones, The Divide. It's the edge of the universe. Now it's collapsing, taking everyone and everything with it. The only ones that can stop it are the Sentinels, the recruits, exiles, and court-martialed dregs of the military. At the Divide, Adequin Rake, commanding the Argus, has no resources, no comms, nothing, except for the soldiers that no one wanted, and their humanity's only chance. That sounds fantastic. It does sound like The Expanse, like that kind of same vibe. so for this. Then on May 4th, we have Andy Weir's new book, Project Hail Mary, and this kind of sounds like he's returning to the same Martian type thing. I know with Artemis he kind of departed from his first book, but this kind of sounds like he's returning to that same kind of vibe as he had in The Martian. So this says, Ryland Grace is the sole survivor on a desperate last chance mission, and if he fails, humanity and the Earth itself will perish. Except that right now, he doesn't know that. He can't remember his own name, let alone the nature of his assignment or how to complete it. All he knows is that he's been asleep for a very, very long time, and he's just been awakened to find himself millions of miles from home, with nothing but 2 corpses for company. His crewmate's dead, his memories fuzzily returning, he realizes that an impossible task now confronts him. Alone on this tiny ship that's been cobbled together by every government and space agency on the planet, hurled into the depths of space, it's up to him to conquer an extinction-level threat to our species. And thanks to an unexpected ally, he just might have a chance. That sounds fantastic. It sounds so suspenseful. I'm definitely just really looking forward to reading more by Andy Weir just in general next year. Also coming up on May 4th is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwen. He wrote Malice, and I have not read that yet, but I've been hearing such good things about that series, and this is his new series that's coming out, and it's kind of Nordic inspired. I'm all for anything Viking or Scandinavian, just in general, so this sounds super, super good. So it says the old gods are dead, but their power remains. After the gods warred and drove themselves to extinction, the cataclysm of their fall shattered the lands of Vigrid. Now a new world is rising from the ashes of the old, where power-hungry jarls carve out petty kingdoms and monsters stalk the woods and mountains. A world where the bones of dead gods still hold great power, promising fame and fortune for those brave or desperate enough to seek them out. As whispers of war echo over the plains and across the fjords, fate follows in the footsteps of 3 people: a huntress searching for a missing son, a jarl's daughter who has respected privilege in pursuit of the battle fame, and a thrall who seeks vengeance among the famed mercenaries known as the Bloodsworn. All 3 will shape the fate of the world as it once more teeters on the edge of chaos. So like I said, I haven't read Malice, but I've heard great things about it. I am planning on reading it eventually, but this book sounds right up my alley. Then I have another book coming out May 4th. So May 4th is a big day as far as book releases for me. And this is a climate fiction novel. This is like post-apocalyptic because of a climate disaster. So this is called The Iceland by Kathleen O'Neill Gear. So this explores a frozen future where archaic species struggle to survive an apocalyptic ice age 1,000 years in the future. The Zyme, a thick blanket of luminous green slime, covers the oceans. Glaciers 3 miles high rise over the continents. Old stories say that when the Gemin, godlike beings from the past, realized their efforts to halt global warming had gone terribly wrong, they made a desperate gamble to save life on Earth and recreated species that had survived the worst of the Earth's ice ages. 16 Summers, Lynx, and her best friend Quiller are members of the sea lion people, archaic humans known as the Denisovans. They live in a world growing colder, a world filled with monstrous predators that hunt them for food. When they flee to a new land, they meet a strange old man who impossibly seems to be the last of the Gemin. He tells the Lynx that the only way he could save his world is by sacrificing himself to the last true god, a quantum computer named Quanis. That sounds really cool. I've never read anything like that before, but it sounds pretty interesting and intriguing if you do ask me. Then we've got an African-inspired fantasy, and this comes out on May 11th. This is called Son of the Storm by Suya Davies Okungbawa. So this is a YA fantasy, I believe. Oh no, it's categorized under the adult section. But anyway, so this says a young scholar's ambition threatens to reshape an empire determined to retain its might in an epic tale of violent conquest, buried histories, and forbidden magic. In the thriving city of Bassa, Danso is a clever but disillusioned scholar who longs for a life beyond the rigid family and political obligations expected by the city's elite. A way out presents itself when Lilong, a skin-changing warrior, shows up wounded in his barn. She comes from the Nameless Lands, which according to Bassa lore doesn't exist, and neither should mythical magic of Ybor she wields. Now swept into a conspiracy far beyond his understanding, Danso will have to set out on a journey that reveals histories violently suppressed and magic found only in lore. This cover just is one of my favorite ones on this list for sure. Then I have another contemporary also coming out on May 6th, and that is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This is her follow-up not a follow-up, but this is her next novel after Beach Read. She just had my favorite romance of the year last year, so I'm really excited that she's coming out with another one. So the description of this one says, Poppy and Alex and Poppy. They have nothing in common. She's a wild child, he wears khakis. She has insatiable wanderlust. He prefers to stay home with a book. And somehow, ever since a car share home from college many years ago, they are the very best of friends. For most of the year, they live apart. She's in New York City, he's in their small hometown. But every summer for a decade, they have taken one glorious week of vacation together. Until 2 years ago, they ruined everything, and they haven't spoken since. Poppy has everything she should want, but she's stuck in a rut. When someone asks her when she was last truly happy, she knows without a doubt that it was on that ill-fated final trip with Alex. And so she decides to convince her best friend to take one more vacation together, lay everything out on the table, and make it all right. Miraculously, he agrees. Now she has a week to fix everything. If only she could get around the one big truth that has always stood quietly in the middle of their seemingly perfect relationship. What could possibly go wrong? I'm just all for anything that Emily Henry writes now, just with how much I love Beach Read. Then I've got one thriller on this list. This comes out on July 6th. This is Survive the Night by Riley Sager. If you have been around my channel for a while, you know I've only read one Riley Sager book, and that was Lock Every Door, and I did not like it. I think I gave it 2.5 stars. I thought it was pretty good for most of the book, but the ending of it, I hated the ending of it. I thought it was ridiculous. So I was a little bit turned off from him for a while, so I wasn't like really interested in reading any of their books by him. But when this one got announced, this sounds so good. So I added this one to my TBR for sure. So this says, it's November 1991. George H.W. Bush is in the White House. Nirvana's on the tape deck, and movie-obsessed college student Charlie Jordan is in the car with a man who might be a serial killer. Josh Baxter, the man behind the wheel, is a virtual stranger to Charlie. They met on a campus ride board, each looking to share the long drive home to Ohio. Both have good reasons for wanting to get away. For Charlie, it's guilt and grief over the murder of her best friend, who became the third victim of the man known as the campus killer. For Josh, it's to help care for his sick father, or so he says. Like the Hitchcock heroine she's named after, Charlie has her doubts. There's something suspicious about Josh, from the holes in his story about his father to how he doesn't seem to want Charlie to see the inside of his car's trunk. As they travel an empty highway in the dead of night, an increasingly worried Charlie begins to think that she's sharing a car with a campus killer. Is Josh truly dangerous, or is Charlie's suspicion a mere figment of her movie-fueled imagination? What follows is a game of cat and mouse played out on night-shrouded roads and neon-lit parking lots during an age when the only call for help can be made on a payphone and in a place where there's nowhere to run. In order to win, Charlie must do one thing: survive the night. So that sounds so cool. I just love that aesthetic for a thriller, which sounds so weird to say, but I do. It sounds so cool, so I'm really looking forward to that one. I'm hoping I enjoy that one a lot more than I enjoyed Lock Every Door, because I really did not like that. Okay, then the last contemporary realistic fiction-esque book that I have on my list is Xoxo by Axio. Lots of O's going on there. This comes out on July 13th, and this is a YA contemporary. This says that cello prodigy Jenny has one goal: to get into a prestigious music conservatory. When she meets mysterious and handsome Jay Woo in her uncle's Los Angeles karaoke bar, it's clear he's the kind of boy who could uproot her careful plans. But in a moment of spontaneity, she allows him to pull her out of her comfort zone in one forgettable night of adventure before he disappears without a word. 3 months later, when Jenny and her mother arrive in South Korea to take care of her ailing grandmother, she's shocked to discover that Jay Woo is a student at the same elite arts academy where she's enrolled in for the semester. And he's not just any student. He's a member of one of the biggest K-pop bands in the world, and he's strictly forbidden from dating. When a relationship means throwing Jenny's life off the path she spent years mapping out, she'll have to decide once and for all how much she's willing to risk for love. So this just reminds me of Somewhere Only We Know by Maureen Gu, which I read earlier this year and loved. So I'm really excited about that. I really like K-pop-y books for some reason. I'm not even really big into K-pop. I mean, I really love Blackpink, but that's like the extent of my K-pop-ness. But this just sounds so cute. I just love the cover of this one too. It is so cute. Then I've got 2 more sequels and then I'm done. So the first one being The Fall of Babel, which comes out on November 11th. This is by Josiah Bancroft, and this is the 4th book in the Books of Babel series. I think this is the final book. I think there's 4. I'm not really too sure. I love this series. It's one of my all-time favorites. I still haven't read book 3, but I'm sure by the time book 4 comes out, I will have caught up with the series. And I'm just really excited about it. I highly recommend that series if you haven't started it yet and you're a fantasy lover. It's very unique. Definitely not like anything I've ever read, but I love it so much. Then my all-time favorite series, the final book, is scheduled to come out next year, but we'll see how it goes, and that is Red Rising Book 6 by Pierce Brown. Come on, Pierce Brown, like, give us some more information. I mean, After Dark Age, like, completely destroyed me. I need book 6. I'm scared of book 6. I'm terrified of it, but I need it right away. And we've gotten like no information about it. He hasn't posted about it, given any progress updates. I literally have no idea what the status of this book is, if it's even going to come out in 2021. Who even knows, but that's when it's slated to come out. So here's hoping for that one. Well, that is all of my most anticipated books for 2021. I hope you guys enjoyed this list. Let me know in the comments down below if there's any of these that you're super excited to read also, or if there's any books you think I would like that are coming out that I should have on my radar. Please let me know. I'm always looking for some good books to put on my TBR. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to like it down below and subscribe if you'd like to see more content from me in the future, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!